Alright, what is up everyone? Welcome back to Book Review, specifically Book Review 10. This month, this is all we read. All Quiet on the Western Front, On the Shortness of Life by Seneca, The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Believe it or not, we didn't read this. War and Peace, Hell House by Richard Matheson, The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, and East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Alright, let's get into book one. Alright, so book one this month was a behemoth, and that is War and Peace. Also, did you like the little character sprite, you know, the new animations? We're maturing in this channel, no more memes, unless they're irresistible or it's for like a transition between sections, I don't know. But for the books, I'm keeping it clean, you know? Anyways, this is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, and this book, I'll just put it like this. I was reading this for about 3 hours every day, and it still took me like a solid 2 weeks to read. It's really, really thick. Honestly, this book is everything. Like Leo Tolstoy threw in history, fiction, romance, drama. He just put it all in the brewing pot, just the witch's cauldron, and just was like this, just freaking stirring it. But boy is it good. It's such a great novel. As you know, here on the book reviews, I don't spoil any books unless I want to spoil a specific book, and if I do, I'll make sure to tell you all beforehand, that way you don't get spoiled. This book, I'm not gonna spoil it. It would be criminal to spoil this book because it's actually so good. Some of my favorite characters like Prince Andrew, Natasha, they're all so well written, and it's incredible. I wouldn't put this on my top 10 favorite books, but that's mainly because my top 10 favorite books is like insane. Actually, scratch that. I probably would put this in my top 10 books. That's an outrageous statement. But I don't know. It's a really good book. It's hard to read. Not because it's bad, but because of the amount of just words that are in here. Like, this might not look like a lot. This might look like well, it looks like a lot, but not like the Brothers Karamazov. That's because the print size of this is absolutely minuscule. Just one of these pages took so long. It was very rewarding though at the end. By the time I reached the climax of the story, does it qualify as a climax? I guess it does. I was pretty much so exhausted from reading this book, but I'm glad I saw it through. I mean, there were some days where there was definitely some fatigue, and that's why it took 2 weeks. I just couldn't read that day because I was literally gonna vomit at the sight of the thing. Because like, it's a love-hate relationship, because you're like, I want to know what happens next, but then you're like, my eyes hurt. So you're like, I'm gonna chill out. There were some days where even though I was fatigued, I still read like 10, 20 pages just to get something from it. And there was days where I tried to read 10 and 20 pages and I accidentally read 100, like I said. There was not that many days I did that. One. I don't know why I said it like that. The book would have been over if I had like more than 3 days. But still, it was so good, and yeah, I definitely recommend this to anyone who either likes Napoleon or the Napoleonic era, Russian literature, French type, you know, like stories that are in the France area, because as you know, France was like the biggest opposition to Napoleon in his time as emperor. So we're taking the perspective from that. Like, I remember being like, wow, Napoleon isn't the good guy in the story. That's insane. So yeah, read this book. All right, book two is Hell House. Yo, wow. I can't believe I started like that. Holy crap. If you're wondering where we are, I'm not repeating locations, okay? It's just that I reinvented this place to be my gym. I'm literally sitting on my bench. Like, I go back on this thing to do bench press. It's not repeating locations. I don't care. I don't care what you say. Get out of here. Anyways, book two this month was Hell House by Richard Matheson. And this book is what Stephen King says right here: the scariest haunted house novel ever written. And it's also a bit, I'm not gonna say a bit, overtly sexual. You're just reading this book, you're disturbed for multiple reasons. It's very scary, it's very well written, but like the type of horror that this shows, like there's this blatant scenes where women are throwing themselves at men because they're possessed by like I can't spoil this. I wanted to talk about it. I contemplated being like, I'm just gonna spoil this book to talk about it, because there were some points I wanted to talk about, but I cannot live with myself. I couldn't live with myself. There's the plane, oh my God. I would not be able to live with myself if I spoiled this book for y'all. Like, if you like reading and I tell you this is the greatest horror novel, and then before you can even read it, because you're probably interested in that if you're watching this, if you're interested in it and I tell you like, oh, it's such a good book, and then right before you're able to read it, I just spoil it for you, that'd be criminal, and at least on my part. But I will say there's a character in this book that suffers from confirmation bias. I remember there's this one quote I saw in a Vsauce video by this one guy. Let me see. Marshall McLuhan. He had a quote that said, "I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't believed it." And that's the case for one of the characters in this book. He suffers from that. There's this skeptic called Lionel Barrett, and he suffers from just ignoring obvious signs. He's just there like, really, there's a ghost, while like a chair floats right behind him. It's like that type of joke. That doesn't actually happen in the book. I'm just saying like that's the best way to describe him. He's just absolutely ignorant to the truth. You know, it's a funny joke, because I will spoil this because it's like the basic concept of the book. This old rich guy that's about to die is like, go to the house to confirm if there's an afterlife. Imagine if after going through all this, pun intended, hell, they return to him and they're like, sir, it's the Mormons. That's the religion. They're right. It's right. All right, y'all. Book 3 this month absolutely shattered me. And that's John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath. This book, I feel, is so needed. We need more people to read this book because it almost mirrors reality. Because obviously not the most fictitious story, because like it's fictional, but like the time it was based on happened. The way things unfold in the story is like what would happen in real life, and it was set in a point of time. But I'm saying it's so deeply connected to our reality, not because we're living like the characters, but because the same thing that happened to them back then is practically happening to us now. There's this specific line in the book that when I read it, it moved me to tears. I cried with this book, and it was just a conversation between the main character and this old man. And they were just talking about wealth, and there's just this specific line that stuck with me, where the character said, "What does a man need 1,000,000 acres for?" And obviously this is a time before like supermarkets and all that, so they were getting introduced to the idea of like food literally rotting because it wasn't sold instead of just giving it to the people. Like, that's insane. And you're just so immersed in this book, and there's so many contrasts to what's happening now. Like, oh, we hear they pay better over in this state, but then you get there and yeah, the pay is better, but everything's more expensive. So there's no way to alleviate the burden of the entire world's weight on your shoulders. So the rich get richer, your health decreases because you're working slave hours for pay that, well, is better than back home. The prices are worse. So basically you're working harder for less money, and it leaves so many people just destitute. And I'm like, more people need to read this book to see that history is just repeating itself. More planes? Really? More planes? Anyways, I don't really want to drag out this video any further, but yeah, this is probably my #1 recommendation of the month, even over War and Peace, surprisingly, but there's a reason. This book is incredible, and it took me about 7 days, about a week to finish, and it was really good. By the way, you might be saying like the math's not adding up, but like I started War and Peace like a week before the start of the month. So by this point, it was like halfway through the month when I read this. And right after that, I read my 4th book by Steinbeck, and that is East of Eden. I read East of Eden. This book is probably gonna be the last Steinbeck book I read because I've read like his main stories now. And wow, this book, I'm gonna spoil it. Yeah, that's right. I bet you didn't see this coming. This is the one I'm gonna spoil. No way. This book engaged me in a way that almost no book has, in the sense that I was so invigorated reading this. Part 1 of this book has to be literally the most captivating and intriguing first like 100 pages of a book I've ever read. So there you go. Let it be heard. I will be spoiling this book in the next 3 seconds. Leave if you haven't read it or want to read it. I don't know. Just leave if you don't want to hear it. East of Eden starts off with these. Well, it starts off with Samuel, but he doesn't get introduced till like after part 1. So I'll just skip to the 2 brothers being born. I forgot who the brothers were again. Adam and Charles. Here we see their upbringing in the farm to a father that's less than kind, but you know, he's not the worst father. He's up there though. Anyway, we see all types of things happen between Charles and Adam, but I'm gonna skip through that to when they're adults and have finally inherited the farm. Adam and Charles, they don't get along a lot, but they're getting along that way that they can maintain life on the farm. And one day, a battered prostitute ends up on their front step. What's going on here? So Adam, being the younger brother and the nicer brother, is like, let's take her to the hospital. Charles is like, oh, she's a prostitute, whatever, takes her. They take her, and Adam's like, let's let her stay in our house for a week while she recovers. Charles is like, no, this woman, she's dirty. She's not gonna, no, stop. So Adam does it, claiming that he's not in love or anything. So in the week that he's there with the woman, prostitute, in his house, he decides to get the brilliant idea, let's get married and go to California. So that happens, and she's like, I don't really want to go to California. I don't really want to go to California. And when she said like the 3rd time, she's like, stop it. We're going to California. So one day he's giving her medicine and he accidentally gets it swapped. He basically brought 2 teacups. One has her medicine and one is just for him, but he swapped it around on accident without realizing and takes it and immediately passes out because he's not used to the dosage. So this is all part 1, by the way. She immediately gets out of bed, cheats on him with his brother, and I just like the imagery of his brother literally when she walks in the room and asks for some. I just imagine him just sitting there in like the freaking Jeff Goldblum pose from Jurassic Park, just lifting the covers up. It's like, bro. And part 2 kicks off with them in California. She tries to have an abortion, fails. The doctor's like blackmailing her at this point, like, you're gonna have these kids. Of course, she can't tell them the pretenses of why she even wants an abortion, because it's the man's brother's baby, so you don't want that. Anyway, it ends up being twins. The couple's life isn't really nice to the point where she shoots him and leaves. He survives the gunshot, and then the boys grow up a bit more. I actually forgot their names. I can't believe it. You have to imagine, after like the 5th book after whatever I read, unless the book is like actually a masterpiece, which this is, but like I tend to forget names. Come on now. You know how many names I've seen this month alone? Let alone the year. So he decides to name the brothers Caleb and Aaron, and I'm gonna really speed forward through the rest of this book. I just want to mention the first part in detail so that you understand this plot. So they end up growing up, they end up meeting this girl named Abra, they're going off and on, and then they take turns seeing their mother all throughout their lives. And it's a very depressing novel in that sense, and they always talking about aspirations and dreams, and like one of them ends up going to the military. That's really late in the story. Anyways, one of them eventually sees his mother for like the actual time after stalking her for years, and when she talks with them, he just has a conversation, which this I actually won't spoil. It leads her to okay, I don't know if we should continue spoiling this. I don't know. It ends up pretty badly, and it's probably one of the more depressing novel endings. Now there's the second spoiler warning for if that intrigued you even more and you actually want to go read it now. Spoiler warning. He ends up making his mother practically commit suicide. She kills herself after the conversation they had, due to the conversation they had is a better terminology. And then he convinces his brother to go off to the war, where he then dies. And when they get the news of his brother dying, I should probably clarify who died. Caleb survives. It's his brother Aaron who dies in the war. And after receiving the word of Aaron's death, the main character Adam, well, I don't know, he's the main character of like the first book, and then his sons like become the main characters. But anyway, Adam has a stroke, practically leaving him paralyzed. And it ends with Samuel coming over, a side character in the story, to tell him, like, tell your son you forgive him for everything. And the book ends with one of the most daunting, most haunting lines, actually daunting. It's very haunting, these last words. Tim Shell, if you read the book, you'll understand how good of an ending that is, because of how horrible, like, they really set that ending up perfectly. Like, John Steinbeck set that ending up perfectly. So yeah, this is definitely a 10 out of 10 book. And yeah, even though I said I was gonna spoil it, I only spoiled like a lot of it, but like I didn't actually spoil everything, I guess. at least in the first half, then I actually said everything. Anyways, pretty good. I'm so glad I found this thrifted. This is probably gonna be the last Steinbeck book of the year, so a really solid closing off to what's probably one of my favorite authors after reading these two books in unison. All right, the next book I read is rather short. I read it practically in one sitting, which is insane. I sat still for 4 hours, ADHD brain. All Quiet on the Western Front. This is really one of the most disturbing novels I've ever read. You probably know it more from like the Netflix film All Quiet on the Western Front, but this is basically it's fictional, but it takes heavy inspiration from the author's actual in-life experiences from fighting in World War I in the German side. And some of the most haunting deaths and just brutal scenes and just horrible displays of human hatred come in this book. And some of the things that happen, like the amputations, the murders, well, is it murder if it's war? I guess it is murder, but still, some of the stuff that happens in this book is straight up despicable and aggravating when it happens to certain characters, and just horrible even when it happens to the supposed enemy. No one's enemies in war. You're all humans. You're fighting for your leaders. Stop killing each other. But still, it's a very, very intense read, and I think it affected me so much deeper simply based off the fact that I read it in one sitting. I didn't let it go. So everything was happening at once for me. And yeah, I'm petrified of this book. I don't think I'm ever gonna read this again. This was a very rough read. Would still recommend. All right, so originally this next book was gonna be Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, but I read 30 pages of this book and decided that it wasn't for me. Normally I should read like 30% of a book before deciding that it's not for me, but I read these 30 pages and I was like, I don't want to invest time in this because I just wasn't really feeling it, and I had a feeling I wasn't going to be feeling it for a majority of the book or even ever. So I was like, I don't want to waste my neurons on something I'm just thoroughly not enjoying. And I'm going to give Charles Dickens another shot at the end of the year with A Christmas Carol for obviously Christmas. But for now, I just had to completely glaze over this. And the reason I felt like mentioning it was just to, reassure the audience. If there's a book in here or any book you're ever reading and you're just not digging it, there's no need to continue reading it, regardless of if it's a classic or even what I said. Like if I'm saying over here, like Don Quixote is the greatest book, Crime and Punishment is the greatest book, Brothers Karamazov is great. It doesn't matter. If you're just starting that book, maybe you read like, for Crime and Punishment, I'd recommend reading 100 pages, but still. If you read like, let's say 30, 40, 50 pages and you're just not messing with a book, don't torture yourself. Put it down, sell it if you want, or just leave it for another day and read something else. Don't fall out of reading. That's how you get into reading slumps. Now, am I saying you don't have to push yourself sometimes? No, I'm not saying that. Sometimes you really do need to push yourself to find greatness in a book, like with the Brothers Karamazov. But normally, typically, I would say if it's not really something you're messing with at all, you don't even like the characters, the plot, the story, the setting, the theme, even the way the author writes, which wasn't the case for this. If you just don't like any of that, if it's not even your genre, just you can put it down with no hard feelings. Don't beat yourself up because you're not reading something that someone claims is a 10 out of 10. The thing about literature is it's not like movies or TV shows where if someone says something is 10 out of 10, most of the time it's a 10 out of 10 and you should watch it and you can find pleasure in watching it. No, with books, it's completely different. It's one of the most vague and the most broad ways of entertaining yourself because you could very easily find something that's bad and very easily find something that's good. Anyways, now let's talk about the book I decided to replace this one with, and it's a rather short one. You could count this as inflating the count, but this is just a book I felt like I wanted to read, and that's T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland. It is not this big. It's actually like 20 pages long. It's just a short story, and I absolutely loved it. I'm trying to find it. Rather peculiar. I can't seem to find the novel. It's about I'll show you, yay big. It's about that much. It's very short. And this is the second and last book. Actually, no, there's another book I want to spoil besides this one. Dang. It's a good book. It's apocalyptic, of course, and it's very philosophical and very existentialist ick. I don't know how to say that word. I probably just invented a word, actually. It's a book that'll make you think. So don't just go into it thinking, oh, Unga Boonga, 20-page, 30-minute read. Blah, blah, blah. No. You have to sit down with this and actually use your head. And that's all I'm going to say on it, because it's very easy to spoil considering it's 20 pages. So. The next book is the one I'm going to spoil, the second and last book I'm going to spoil this month, which is On the Shortness of Life by Seneca. This is my first book by Seneca that I'm reading. It's, again, I'm not counting this inflating the count, because when it's philosophy, it can be this short and have this amount of content. I know, it's crazy, right? This book is straight up transformative. It's composed of 20 chapters, and it's obviously on the shortness of life. And I can't really say anything. I'm gonna like verbatim just read off my favorite quotes from this book, and that'll count as spoiling it technically. I mean, you're reading a whole chapter. But I would heavily recommend that you just go buy this and read it. You could buy for like $3, dude. This is like, it's not the most expensive thing in the world, and I feel like if everyone in society read this, we wouldn't have as many workers, because it definitely awakens you to the shortness of life. I think people don't realize just how short and limited their time on Earth is. And that quotes into what I'm going to spoil here, my favorite chapter of the book, and probably one of my most this impacted me when I read it. And I'm gonna get to it now. All right, this is chapter 11. In a word, do you want to know how they do not live long? See how eager they are to live long. Decrepit old men beg in their prayers for the addition of a few more years. They pretend that they are younger than they are. They comfort themselves with a falsehood and are as pleased to deceive themselves as if they deceive fate at the same time. But when at last some infirmity has reminded them of their mortality, in what terror do they die, feeling that they are being dragged out of life and not merely leaving it. They cry out that they have been fools, because they have not really lived, and that they will live henceforth in leisure, if only they escape from this illness. Then at last they reflect how uselessly they have striven for things which they did not enjoy, and how all their toil has gone for nothing. But for those whose life is past remote from all business, why should it not be ample? None of it is assigned to another, none of it is scattered in this direction and that. None of it is committed to fortune, none of it perishes from neglect. None is subtracted by wasteful giving, none of it is unused, the whole of it, so to speak, yields income. And so, however small the amount of it, it is abundantly sufficient. And therefore, whenever his last day shall come, the wise man will not hesitate to go to meet death with steady step. That's one of my favorite passages. Now there's another one. I can't seem to find the chapter I want to talk about. I forgot where it is. I'm probably going to have to reread this at some point in my life for sure, because it's incredible, even though I gained a lot from it. Okay, I can't find it. I'm going to just say it off of the top of my head. What the main point I got from this is, one of the chapters talks about how people give away their life for nothing. They plan ahead in tens of years. So by the time they're 60, they think they'll live on forever. Like, you plan your 50s doing this odd job, 40 doing this. You're going to strive for this in your 30s, and you just put it in 10-year blocks, as if after you reach 60, you will cease to die. You will live forever and do what you actually want to do onward from that point in time. And that affected me, because I know a lot of people who sadly live like this. My camera quite literally overheated, and I had to put it in the freezer. They were like, we have to nerf him. He's talking too much heat right now. I forgot where I was even on with this book. Oh my God, I hate that. I had to literally take a 10 and put it in the freezer. It's like super cold now. God dang it, I was talking about this book. I love this book so much, and now I completely lost the string of thought and conversation. It was something about people planning out their lives in like 10-year blocks and how that's just utterly stupid. But anyways, I'll just cut it short then, because yeah, the government's trying to stop me. They're like, we need more workers in the workplace. Anyway, read this book. It's great. And the last book of the month is Do Androids Dream of Electronic Sheep? I literally finished this book before coming out here to record all this, so let's get to it very quickly. This is not a book about androids and sheep. This is Blade Runner, and it has to do about androids and sheep. What? Yeah, I did not expect that coming into this story. Apparently sheeps are like super valuable in this world because like everyone's used to like robotic animals, and it's like a symbol of status if you have like a real life animal. So like the protagonist's entire purpose in the story is to get like an actual sheep for his wife to tend to. It's like, what the hell? He's actually a bounty hunter for dejected androids from Mars, and it's a very good novel. Again, not gonna spoil it. And like I said, it's just Blade Runner. Don't let. I thought this was gonna be like an extraordinarily philosophical book, which it technically is. It's about empathy, human empathy, and funnily enough, how robots lack it. Yet the human characters in the story seem to have less empathy than they do. Specifically in the frog scene, you might take it as the machine being callous, but it's not out of not having empathy. It's about not being able to have empathy. Even with that lack of empathy, they still have more empathy than a human being who should have empathy. Anyway, read this book. It's super good. You might be wondering, but Robert, wasn't that the last book? Why is there another section? It's because I'm probably going to read I'm probably going to read the Iliad this following 5 days before this video comes out. Anyways, if I do read it and I don't get a chance to talk about it in the video, in the comments below and in the community post of my channel, you'll be able to see whether I actually ended up finishing the Iliad before or after, you know, before the next month starts. In that case, it'll just be part of that month's book review. Either way, it's going to be part of that month's book review. But yeah, I'm going to try and read the Iliad before the month ends. I might actually be able to do it. It's only like 400 pages. I might be able to get that down in like a couple days. All right, on to the manga. This is what I read this month. Holy crap. Yeah, this is a ton, I know. This is actually not really representing how much I actually read. I read 5 more volumes of this, but online instead. I couldn't wait. I was originally going to stop like around volume 24 because that's where like season 3 is going to end of the anime. But I was like, nah, screw that. Read all of it. Pretty disappointing ending. Not the worst ending in the world, but it's definitely not the best. You can definitely feel that Gege rushed himself to finish it because he was just feeling bad, and the stupid people at his company were like, no, get it out now. I would have rather preferred he took like a 6, 7, 8 month break and came back to it refreshed. I mean, not as long as the guy who wrote Vagabond or making Vagabond, but like if he would have taken a year to, you know, make it 2 more volumes, it would have been better, because every season of the anime is like 8 volumes. So you got 8 plus 8 plus 8 for season 3 at 24. We should have got another 8. Instead of it being 30, we should have had like 32 volumes at minimum, because the ending is so rushed. But it's still not the worst ending, and it's great. So yeah, this is a definite, just because of the ending alone being rushed, it's an 8 out of 10 series. But up to season 3, it is a 10 out of 10, folks. So yeah, I read all of Jujutsu Kaisen W. And I also read No Longer Human by Junji Ito. That's right, it makes its return. I read the novel by Osamu Dazai earlier this year, and now I read the manga, which is a bit different from the book, I will say that, but it's just equally as good. And I love the, you know, part where it's revealed that Osamu Dazai exists in this world and he has a whole conversation with his own character. It's very therapeutic to see that, considering how his life ended very similarly to how his character's life in the book was meant to end. And it's kind of cathartic to just see him alive, conversing with basically another version of himself. And yeah, this is probably one of the best mangas ever. It's also my first ever seinen work. Rather, yeah, just seinen, because I always watch shonen anime. Seinen doesn't really get anime, sadly. So yeah, this is my first ever anything that has to do with like seinen, yeah. Wait, is Berserk seinen? Boom. All right, let's get through these books. Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. This is gonna be my first Asimov book, but I've heard a lot about it. I've heard a lot about him, and I can't wait to read it. Hiccup. Next book is gonna be The Shining. Yes, I've seen the movie. I know there's differences. I've actually already read this book earlier in my life. Back when I was like 12, I'm gonna read it again though for the book review. Outer Dark by Cormac McCarthy. This is gonna be another one of his books this year. I've read like almost half of his entire book catalog. The Rebel by Albert Camus. This will be my 4th Camus book this year. year. For Whom the Bell Tolls by Ernest Hemingway. This will be my 4th book by him. A lot of 4s this year now that I'm noticing. Anyway, this will be my 4th book by him this year. John Milton's Paradise Lost. I heard this has a lot of striking similarities with Blood Meridian because Blood Meridian had one aspect of it, you know, inspired from this book. I heard it's about the Bible through the devil's perspective. Already intrigued. I'm gonna read this next month. Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. I actually forgot I was gonna read this. Okay, so this is gonna be my 2nd attempt at getting into Charles Dickens. I've heard so many good things about this book, so I'm sure I'm actually gonna be able to dig it. So yeah, I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna really try with this one, guys. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I've read this before in my life when I was like 15, and I'm gonna read it again now for the book review. And the final book, this will actually be the first book I'll read next month if I were after The Iliad and the Odyssey, and that's gonna be A Little Life. I know this isn't a classic, but I picked it up at Walmart and I've heard so many good things about it. And you know what? I'm gonna treat myself to something that's not necessarily old and it's actually quite new. So yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about this story, and you'll definitely hear it like in the 2nd or 3rd entry of next month. So most likely what will be the first book next month is gonna be the Odyssey. I might get the Iliad finished this remaining couple of days in the month. All right. On to channel updates. I'm cutting it right here.
Her arms were cut off. Her legs were cut off.
Channel updates. We should change this to life updates. Change it to life updates real quick. Okay, so I got a job. I'm making money, but that's left me with a lot of time to not do basically anything. Yeah. I've kind of had to abandon the weight loss thing, so we're just gonna cut that out. I know, kind of anticlimactic after 10 months of losing weight. I'm just gonna cut that section off after like 3 months of making no progress, making anti-progress, but I'm gonna get on medication soon, and I just can't even focus with that, with the amount of burdens I have in my life, such as with the reading, the work. And I mean, it's good that my work is fairly easy and I actually enjoy doing it, but still, it takes a chunk of time out of my day every day for the rest of the year probably. So yeah, that's one of the life updates. Second life update is that I'm probably gonna stop doing gaming videos this year alone. I've started doing rants, which I really enjoy doing. Those are the last videos that were posted on this channel, and I just enjoy doing them. It's gonna be either skits or that for the rest of the year, either on YouTube or TikTok. That's all I'm really gonna do videos wise. And yeah, that's really all I have to say. I always like to keep these sections short because they're not really about books, but I still like to let y'all know what's happening either in my life just because I want to let y'all know, and also because you should know so that nothing surprises you when I either don't upload or, you know, I do something different with my content. So yeah. That's gonna be it for book review 10. This is probably one of my favorite book reviews, even though I technically failed in reading Great Expectations and also reading The Iliad and the Odyssey. But I don't know, I really enjoyed reading this month. This has been an overall very good month for me. And I'm very excited for next month. The books I have here in store for next month are very good. I don't know if I'll be able to read all of it. I probably won't. There's probably 2 or 3 books that are gonna get cut out of this overall haul. But this is just, you know, me, you know, shooting for the stars. You know, I'm putting the goal really far. So far this year alone, we've read like, what, 77 books? So we're doing good. I don't know if we'll be able to get to 100 this year, but if we do, perfect. So yeah, I'll see you all next month. Bye.